At its core, one of Final Fantasy XI's biggest strengths is its equipment, with gear changes providing huge bumps in character power, which is why it's so interesting that sometimes the true strength of that equipment isn't even listed in its effects. Most that have played Final Fantasy XI at one point or another have come across the game's infamous hidden effects, which were so common that it left people looking for them on pieces of gear that were just absolutely terrible. And they're like, there must be something here, there must be something underneath. Turns out some really were just worthless. I mean, there is some gear that at like 60 just provides some decent defense. Not even great defense, just okay defense. Nothing hidden, just sucks. But others that did truly have these hidden or latent effects were some of the most crucial and amazing pieces of gear in the game. I mean, we've talked at length in the past about the importance of player stats overall and how the tiniest changes could make all the difference. But those are all with stats that we could actually see. So what was the deal with hidden effects? Overall, I have to assume that in some part this is Final Fantasy XI and Square Enix's attempt to retain a little bit of that mystery, even in an aspect that's already kind of confusing. Nobody really understood how stats overall worked. There were some incredibly smart people that put together a lot of math based on the information that was given to us to determine at a pretty granular level how the formulas probably worked. But ultimately, that was still mostly a guess, based on lots of data. But for the average player, we had no idea. So then you take already the confusing aspect of how gear, stats, and everything else affects the player overall strength, and you add in just like, there's no text, but something's happening, and it adds all this extra mystery to this already mysterious game. There were hidden, latent, and hidden latent effects. And in true Final Fantasy XI fashion, they could be game-changing, worthless, somewhere in between, really nice, but for a strategy nobody would ever employ. It was all over the place. Let's talk about the obvious ones to kind of set the groundwork here. The elemental staves. On the surface, they look just like decent stats that you get at level 51 for any mage. The Ice Staff, for instance, 4 int, some elemental skill, pretty solid. It is decent. You're like, okay, I'd use that. But if you cast the appropriate spell type with it, it gains an extra 10% overall damage and some additional spell accuracy as well. No mention. Light Staff improves the overall success rate of Charm, which it's not like totally unreasonable that stats and things could affect an ability, but it's weird that like a mage's staff could affect a melee job ability. It's just kind of a bizarre concept. All the staves provide an overall decrease to the corresponding avatar's perpetuation cost. Again, no mention of this, but they're basically crucial to any budding summoner out there. It's just crazy that none of those effects, and there are more, are mentioned at all on the stats of these elemental staves. I myself just picked up the Ice Staff and the Dark Staff on Eden last stream. It's one of the crucial moments in any mage's career when you finally get to that point where you're like, I need the elemental staves and I can get them, and they're expensive, so it's kind of a big hump to jump over. Speaking of which, if you didn't know, we do stream every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Not just Final Fantasy XI, but we do stream it a hell of a lot. So come out, say hi, we can chat about this amazing game and all the hidden latents that exist out there. But while the elemental staves are one of the more better known hidden effects in the game, they're not really the most game changing. I mean, they're really strong, don't get me wrong, and as soon as you can equip them, it's like your best main weapon equipment for mages till the end of the game. But there are other pieces that are way stronger for their respective jobs. Carbuncle myths? The official stats listing only MP plus 14? Are you serious? One of the most ridiculous notorious monsters in the game, which I will remind everybody, is a Tonberry in Temple of Uglef, which is basically the worst combination of things that can exist. And it's ridiculous not only to get to him, to defeat him, both hard by the way, but it's also ridiculous that he drops this level 20 pair of mitts that do MP plus 14. Strange, but nay. They have a hidden effect, and I think this is the first time I learned of the concept of hidden effects was reading about these mitts, that decrease the overall cost of Carbuncle's perpetuation by half. Half of his cost. With these mitts, you are capable of having a free Carbuncle for the first time in the game. What? Obviously, no mention. This pair of mitts is one of the best pieces of gear a summoner can have, and at 75, still the pair of mitts you should have equipped when you have Carbuncle summoned, which is insane. Like I was saying before, in a game where so little is truly known, truly understood, at least by the masses, about how the underlying mechanics are actually functioning, how confusing the interdependent systems could be in calculating your overall effectiveness. There's so much confusion, so much mystery, so much you're just wondering all the time. You're like, does this work this way? And unless Square Enix actually comes out and posts a big spreadsheet explaining something exactly like how Treasure Hunter works, which, you know, they never would. In a game where some of that equipment could take days, weeks to obtain, is just totally Square Enix. To have a few pieces just hide their true effects, which are game-changing. Wulong shoes, Dune boots, that just like enhance your overall kick attack damage, I think? Or was the rate at which you'd kick attack? I totally forget. No, I think it's damage. And that's just the hidden effects. Latent effects you'd think would be a little bit more obvious, but they could be equally crazy. Latent effects were the effects that were triggered by, you know, certain scenarios occurring in-game. If you're under 100 TP, under 50% MP, over 50% HP, that kind of stuff. Number of weapon skills that you performed with that weapon equipped, you name it. I guarantee most of you have used at least one of these, whether you were thinking about it at the time or not. The Gaudy Harness for Beastmasters, one of those Kindred Seal BC&M weapons, Blau Dolch. Why did that come out so weird? The Blau Dolch. It came from like deep inside. Blau Dolch. Blah. Too much. Let me know in the comments below your favorite latent or hidden BC and effect item, whether you had it or not, and what you had to do to trigger the latent if there was one. My favorite is still definitely the Carbuncle bits, but honestly, I did love those destroyers, the Monk Kindred BC&M weapon. They're like one of the better weapons in the game for Monk, and really just took time and energy. Because that was the trick, right? The trick to these was, well, there was usually a brief description of what the latent would do, although not really all that well. Sometimes it was just like, enhances refresh. I'm like, what does that mean? Does it enhance refresh to the point where I have it even if I don't have it? Does it enhance refresh by making refresh do more refresh? Last longer? What's going on here? But they never explained how to activate the latent. Sometimes it was pretty easy to figure out, like depending on what sub-job you have to equip, for instance, for some of those rings and the back pieces. Some of those were amazing, by the way, especially the ones for subs that you already were using. Ninjas, warriors, Black Mage one was really sweet. But for most, I mean, through what I have to assume was a ridiculous amount of effort, players determined that like the Oppo crown had ridiculously hidden stat bonuses if you ate pamamas while wearing it. Pamamas were like a worthless food. I don't even know who tried this. Who was like, I'm gonna go eat a pamama. But yeah, it changed the stats on the Oppo crown from -7 charisma to +14, instantly making it one of the better pieces of gear in the game for Beastmasters and Bards. Or the Oppo necklace, while we're talking about Oppo stuff, that gave you a regain while asleep. What? That became a crucial strategic gear element for basically all melee everywhere doing any kind of fight. Ever. Point is, and I keep coming back to this, but it's another great example of Square Enix just introducing a little bit more mystery, a little bit more wonder into a game that was already chock full of it. It's a huge contrast to MMOs today, you know, which tend to provide generic stats across multiple classes, character builds, job types, everything's so genericized because it makes balance a lot easier for the devs, and they can provide an overall safer experience for new players, existing players that don't want to have too much fluctuation, because you run the risk of players becoming, I don't know, pissed off at the game and leaving, I guess. So you get a larger player base and more people can enjoy it without having to worry about learning these crazy mechanics, like things that don't even exist in the description, apparently changing how the game works. Of course, for longtime MMO fans, that stuff was amazing. I loved that confusion, that rise and fall of player strengths across different classes, levels, tasks. But that's neither here nor there. But seriously, I mean, the idea that there would exist such gear that could change the job so dramatically, like allowing Carbuncle to be a free avatar where before, having any avatar summoned would eventually drain your MP, and actually pretty quickly. But then to not even tell players about it, just introduce the gear into the game silently, quietly, with the only hint being that they're called Carbuncle's meds, which honestly was a bigger, sneaky hint than most pieces of gear would give you. And then just forcing them to learn it either by accident, by word of mouth from other players, which again increases the social dynamic aspect of the game. Everything always was pushing everything else. Gear became so important that it really showed the importance of stats and getting new gear and doing different BC&Ms and learning what gear was out there from other players. It was all social, driving you to do more content. explore new areas, fight new things, which made you want to get more gear. It's this cool interconnecting system. But yeah, it's part of what made the social aspect so strong, and the drive to keep looking for that better gear was so intense, because it was so good. Somewhere out there could be some crazy amazing gear you didn't even know about. But now it's out there if somebody just learned how you can make it better or figure out how it worked. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what kind of gear was your favorite. Did you like hidden effects? Did you like latent effects? Or were they more annoying? Also, let me know what kind of videos you'd like to see in the future. Do you want to see more guides, nostalgia goggles, omelet recipes, whatever you guys want? I want to hear about it. If you want to catch up in person, like I said, we stream every Tuesdays and Thursdays on Twitch, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're looking for more ways to support the channel, definitely check out the Hunt for Games Patreon in the description below. As usual, thanks so much to the existing Patreon supporters. I could not be here without you guys. The constant support literally keeps me going. Thank you so much. Otherwise, everybody, stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in more videos like this, think about subscribing. And if you already have, don't forget to click that little bell next to the sub button to get notified when new videos go live. Hit me up in the comments with your thoughts on this video, or come hang out and chat with me on Twitch every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And definitely look me up on Twitter or Instagram at Hunt for Games to keep up with what else I've got going on. See ya.